Great to have you here. And this is obviously going to be a week where everyone's going to be focused on what's going on with the climate and the fight against climate change. For some people, it may seem counterintuitive that the head of the second largest miner in the world would be at the forefront of that. What role do you play? Does Rio Tinto play?
So climate change is actually really at the heart of our business. We're not in fossil fuel extraction, but we do have a big carbon footprint, and we need to address that. We have set targets to reduce it by 50% by 2030. But even more importantly, if you think about what does it mean to address climate change, it's actually about building a whole new energy system. Mm-hmm. It's about electrifying societies. It's a very physical change. It will require a lot of investments, and you can't do it without the critical minerals that we are producing. We are the Western world's largest producer of aluminium. Mm-hmm. We are a major producer of copper. Those are the two most important minerals. But also battery materials is growing a lot right now, so it's highly relevant for us to be part of this.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the need for more lithium. Not necessarily a rare mineral, but certainly something where the capacity to mine it just quite isn't there here. I know you have some projects, at least one big project in South America, and there's been there's been reporting by Bloomberg about a project in Western Australia as well.
Yeah, so in Western Australia, we're doing exploration many places on the planet. We have another project in Serbia that we would like to progress on, and we are, as you say, building in Argentina right now. But we're actually doing exploration on a number of continents right now. It's not that lithium is ever going to be as big as copper and as aluminium, but the point is the current production is very small, and basically in 2030 we expect 10 times more demand than in 2020, so quite a few new mines needs to be up and running.
When it comes to the lithium exploration, are you able to put a number to that? What kind of magnitude are we talking about?
So, as I said, it was fairly small, and it's now going to be 10 times bigger. It's actually ending up being quite a big industry, but it's still tiny compared to the copper world. So for us, we have the competences as a miner and as a manufacturer. We have the technology. We are strong in exploration, and therefore we think we can play a meaningful role to contribute to this. But it will always have its limitations as well.
In addition to the physical land, would you consider any M&A in the lithium space to get up to scale?
Well, we tend to look at it slightly different. We rather use our competences to develop the projects ourselves, because lithium companies right now are very, very expensive, and that might be relevant for someone who doesn't have any competences in the area, but we can do it. We believe we can find much cheaper ways to get there.
Can you do that in a way that I guess is quote unquote clean? There's been a lot of discussion about how the mining of these sort of renewable, or these I guess materials that would go into sort of renewable energy projects like EVs come with their own baggage as well.
Yeah. No, look, you're absolutely right. Out of our 4 objectives for Rio Tinto, one of our objectives is to have impeccable ESG credentials. I do believe that societies nowadays are much more focusing on how things are being done, and we rather want to be a step ahead than a step behind on this. We cannot run away from the fact that extraction has an impact on nature, but we can minimize that, and we can offset that, and we can find really, really good solutions. So that's actually the value proposition from our side. Sometimes it might cost a little extra, but you then build something that is really sustainable and a win-win. Because you have to bear in mind, you don't build a mine for 2 or 3 years, you build it for 3 or 4 decades.
Well, then you have to work with regulators too. I mean, this has been a discussion. I mean, so you've gotten past that hurdle in Argentina.
Yes.
You're working on that in Australia.
Yes.
I know the Serbian government at one point blocked the deal there. Yeah. Have they softened at all since?
Look, we are very optimistic. Ultimately, we have to be humble. It's not just a private investment choice, it is actually a societal choice. And if we want a sustainability in our operations, everybody needs to feel comfortable, and it has to be seen as contributing to society. I think that is the case. I think we can contribute an awful lot to the countries where we are mining and manufacturing, but it is about how and the solutions you get in place.
I want to talk a little bit about iron ore because you've seen the sell side come out and upgrade or downgrade your stock depending on iron ore demand, specifically from China. From your view, where do you see Chinese demand right now?
Well, the demand is good. You will have seen that there's tight supply and demand, that prices have gone up the last couple of months, etc. The Chinese steel mills, they are producing, and there's demand for their steel.
Demand for their steel. Do you see that continuing, though? Is that sustainable as we get into maybe next year?
There's always uncertainty about the future, of course. We tend not to look so much at the short term. We tend to think about the long term, and we look kind of 5-10 years down the road. And the world steel demand will continue to be good. There will be more recyclability, which is good, and therefore slightly less demand for iron ore. China's demand is probably going to stabilize, whereas you see other developing countries like India growing significantly. But we see a good, stable demand long term for our iron ore production.
We'd be remiss in not asking you about what's going on in the aluminium market here. Of course, one of the worst performing commodities out there, at least in terms of what we see in the futures market here. How much of that is impacted by what we've been seeing with Russian supply and where that supply is going?
Yeah, no, first of all, the U.S. have actually put on a tariff for not importing Russian aluminium, but that's not the case around in the world and around in the rest of the Western world. We are not doing business in Russia. We are condemning the war, and therefore that's what we have seen recommendation. We would have thought that there would have been some limitations on how to import Russian aluminium. I don't think we can blame it just on Russian aluminium. There is just in general significant supply. And one of the challenges we are having in a week like this week, Climate Week, is that unfortunately the price is the same whether you are selling low carbon aluminium or high carbon aluminium. And there's a huge difference because aluminium is the most energy intensive metal on the planet. And therefore if you use coal for producing aluminium, you have very significant CO2 emissions. So it would have been nice if we had more differentiated price setting here, because you're absolutely right. We have the Western world's largest aluminium business, primarily based in Canada. Very low carbon because we got the hydropower there. It's a unique system that Canada has got, but it would be good if there could be put a value to that business.
All right, Jakob, I know you have a busy week ahead of you, so really appreciate your time on set today. Our thanks to Rio Tinto CEO Jakob Stausholm.